I always thought anniversaries were meant to celebrate how far you've come together, not to measure how far apart you've drifted. 12 years. That's what Megan and I were supposedly honoring that night. Or at least that's what I believed when I booked a table at Lavana, the same Italian restaurant where I had proposed. It was meant to be special. A quiet corner, soft candlelight, the same bottle of wine we'd shared all those years ago. Megan looked stunning, effortless as always, in a pale blue dress, her hair cascading down, a small diamond pendant resting just above her neckline. But her eyes, there was something different, a distance, a distracted light that didn't belong in the moment. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself I was imagining things. "Happy anniversary," I said, lifting my glass. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. 12 years, she murmured, clinking her glass against mine. Feels like a lifetime, doesn't it? Her voice made it sound more like a question than a celebration. I smiled, pretending not to notice. I talked about trips we'd taken, the house we'd built, the memories we'd made. She laughed in all the right places, nodded at the right moments, but her eyes kept flicking toward her phone lying face down beside her plate. Halfway through dinner, she excused herself to the restroom. I watched her walk away, that familiar sway of confidence in her step. I looked around the restaurant. Couples chatting, candles flickering, the soft hum of music. Everything felt ordinary, perfectly ordinary. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my brother, Ethan. "You still at Lavana?" "Yeah." "Why?" I typed back. "You might want to check outside. I think you just got company." My stomach sank. Ethan wasn't one for drama. I made up some excuse to the waiter and stepped away from the table. The hallway led past the kitchen to the side exit. I pushed through the door, and the cool night air hit me like a slap. There she was, Megan, standing by a black car at the edge of the lot. The door was open, and a man leaned casually against it. Tall, broad-shouldered, familiar in a way that made my blood run cold. It took me a second to recognize him. Tyler, my business partner, the man who had stood beside me at my wedding, who had toasted to our happiness 12 years ago. I froze. They didn't see me at first. Megan was smiling, really smiling, the kind of smile she hadn't given me in months. She touched his arm, said something that made him laugh. Then he reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face. Gentle, intimate, practiced. My hands trembled. The noise from the restaurant faded, replaced by the thundering pulse in my ears. I stepped back, careful not to make a sound. The last thing I wanted was a confrontation in that moment. I didn't trust myself to speak. I went back inside, forcing my breathing steady, and sat down at the table. The wine had gone warm. The candle burned lower. Everything looked the same, except now I knew. When she returned, she smiled effortlessly, slipping back into the rhythm of a wife celebrating her anniversary. "Sorry," she said, picking up her napkin. There was a line. I stared, wondering how someone could lie so easily while looking straight into your eyes. The rest of dinner passed in fragments. Her voice, my silence, the clinking of silverware. I paid the bill, thanked the waiter, and we walked to the car hand in hand, like nothing had happened. But inside me, something fundamental had shifted. A crack opened, quiet but irrevocable. The drive home was silent. Megan leaned against the window, scrolling through her phone. The blue light flickered across her face. I kept my hand steady on the wheel and forced my voice calm. "You tired a little?" I asked. Long week, she murmured. The phrase had replaced the old. "I missed you," the one she used to say with warmth. I wondered if Tyler heard the same excuse, or she saved all her energy for him. When we got home, she went straight upstairs. I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the faint reflection of my own face in the window. The house felt different, colder somehow. The walls that once held laughter and late-night talks now echoed with silence and half-truths. I wanted to storm upstairs, demand answers, ask why him? Why tonight? Why our anniversary? But I stayed frozen. There's a strange kind of pain that comes from realizing you're not angry, just empty. When I finally went upstairs, she was already in bed, pretending to sleep, I lay beside her, inches from the woman who used to feel like home, and all I could think was how far away she drifted while still lying next to me. The next morning, I woke before her. I sat at the edge of the bed, studying the small details. The jewelry box, our honeymoon photo, her perfume bottle on the dresser. Everything looked the same, but nothing mattered anymore. When she stirred, she smiled faintly. "You're up early." "Yeah," I said. "Couldn't sleep." "You okay?" she asked, stretching. I looked at her, really looked. The woman I'd loved for over a decade, the one I'd built a life around, now felt like a stranger living in my house. "I'm fine," I said quietly. And maybe, for the first time in a long while, I meant it. That day, I didn't go to work. I drove to the lake we used to visit on Sundays. I sat there for hours, watching the water flow. Calm, steady, unbothered. It reminded me who I was before everything got complicated, before love became obligation instead of choice. By afternoon, I'd made up my mind. When I returned, Megan was at the dining table, laptop open, sipping coffee. "Hey," she said casually. "I was thinking maybe we could go to your mom's this weekend." I nodded. "Sure, but I'll drive separately." Her brow furrowed. "Why?" I met her eyes. "Because after that, I'm not coming back here." Color drained from her face. Lips parted, but no words came. For a moment, I thought she might lie again. But silence said everything. "Megan," I said softly, "I spent years believing love could survive anything if you tried hard enough. I gave it every piece of me. But I think we both know we've been done for a long time." She stood, eyes glossy. "It's not what you think." I almost laughed. "Then what is it?" She said nothing. I picked up my keys and glanced around one last time. The photos on the walls. The couch where we'd fallen asleep watching movies. The kitchen where we'd danced barefoot at midnight. They were all echoes of a life already ended. At the door, she whispered, "So that's it?" I turned back, calm. "It's not revenge, Megan. It's peace. You made your choice. I'm just finally making mine." Then I left. Outside, the evening air carried a stillness I hadn't felt in years. I walked to my car, started the engine, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel the weight of what I was leaving behind, only the relief of what I was walking toward. Freedom. And as the lights of our house disappeared in the rearview mirror, I realized something. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't fight for someone to stay. It's have the strength to finally walk away.